Hello, welcome to this episode of the Shamanic Heartspace podcast. I thought I would take this opportunity, with it being the equinox coming up, to create a bonus episode all about that. I'm going to be taking it from the perspective of the northern hemisphere, which means it's the autumn equinox. And that is because I feel very connected with the northern hemisphere where I grew up, even though I live down here in the southern hemisphere in Peru, and I'm obviously so connected with the shamanism that happens here. I still feel very connected with the northern hemisphere and the rhythms and cycles of the planet from that perspective. So I thought that I would bring you this podcast. If you don't know, the equinox is the midway point between the solstices, so that's the longest and shortest days of the year. There are only 2 equinoxes a year, and these are the only days where day and night are of equal length. So if you don't know already, I'm sure you can imagine that comes with a lot of exciting energy. But really, as well, this is a huge harvest period, is how it was seen once upon a time. The autumn equinox being the second of 3 harvest festivals. So there's a whole couple of weeks of partying, really. And the first one being the grain harvest, Lammas, on August the 1st. And this one, the autumn equinox, sort of being the fruit and veg harvest. And then Samhain, also known as October the 31st, Halloween, the witch's new year, is the third festival. There's a lot of fire involved in this, a lot of purging, getting rid of the old and celebrating abundance. It happens when the sun moves from Virgo into Libra, no matter where you are in the world. That's when the September equinox happens. And it's part of celebrating the turn of the wheel of the year. We're moving into a new season. And it's the counterpart to the festival of Ostara. So that's why in the southern hemisphere, Ostara is about to happen here. And that is moving into the opposite kind of emotion, the opposite season, moving into spring. You may have also heard the autumn equinox called Mabon, and this is more of a modern term, but there's a few different names flying around. The Libra equinox, the September equinox, Mabon, just the equinox, whatever you want to call it, whatever resonates with you. So the themes really associated with the autumn equinox would be abundance, gratitude, and with any equinox, we're looking at balance, equality, harmony, everything in perfect balance, essentially. The masculine, the feminine, the dark and the light, the inner, the outer. And it's also the cusp of transition. We're moving into the next phase. And this really is a great opportunity to take some time out to complete anything that needs to be completed. Anything that's been going on since Ostara or before that, needs to be finished. You can take some time out around now, amid all the partying and celebrating the abundance, to just have a little check-in about what needs to be finished, what's hanging over you, so that you can make space for what you want to bring into your life when the wheel turns once more. It's a really good opportunity to look at what is in balance and what is out of balance in your life, in yourself, between you and your environment, you and your relationships, you and yourself. And aside from that, or additionally, really, having a look at where your energy is going. Are you giving and receiving in equal measure? It's quite an important one, especially the way many people live their lives now, just so busy, so strung out, often not taking time for themselves, or often putting themselves at the bottom of the list, the to-do list. So this is a chance to sit back and consider some of those things and where some changes might be needed. And as well as that, because of the nature of the changing seasons, it's a reminder that nothing is permanent, but also nothing is wasted. If we just look to nature, we can see parts of nature dying, falling away, and returning to the earth to then feed the earth and come back once more. And that's exactly the same as us. So when we move with these natural rhythms, it helps us not to be so stuck. It helps us to keep things moving and shifting, keep things exciting, keep things real. So inevitably with this, some people might be picking up on the emotion of grief. Certainly with stuff that's going on in the world at the moment, it's a common emotion, but especially at this time of year. And once again, thinking about how those leaves fall, the onset of the death season really is approaching. And death just really means an opportunity for a new start. It doesn't have to be feared in the way that it has been, or it is feared by, so many. So really, this is about giving thanks for life and abundance and for presence, and that things are always happening in the background. Life is moving, things are growing, things are changing, and often we don't get a chance to stop and think about that. But if you think about this festival as the harvest festival, all of that hard work paying off. Now you can go and pick your fruits and veg and do what you're going to do with it. And any leftovers, you're going to give out to your community and you're going to share. This is an opportunity for connection, to show love and gratitude, really to share. And this harvest festival, a time for picking those fruits, making those jams, those preserves, sharing that abundance, giving thanks for the abundance with all of your community. If that's something that you can do at this time, please, we need it. We really need that connection, that earthy, warm, loving community feeling of pulling together. And it really brings us into a greater connection with Mother Earth and her generosity. And you can be generous too. You can be loving too. Equal exchanges in all relationships. So focus on receiving as well as giving. Being grateful to the earth for the abundance. All of our ancestors at some point would have been hunter-gatherers and then agricultural at some point. And so this is a great way to connect in with your ancestors all the way through up to Samhain, Halloween, where our ancestors are close by, really close by. And, you think about how much the sun and the light and the energy has been growing and cultivating the earth and cultivating us. Think how much you've changed, you've grown, just like those fruits and vegetables. And now we're going to begin a period of winding down in order to let go, to take stock in all ways. So that's what I mean about making your jams and your pies and whatever, your preserves. That can be a metaphor as well as being literal. You're preparing to hibernate, hopefully, moving into yourself, into your own sacred space within yourself to take stock. So you probably already know, if you haven't guessed already, there's a lot of magic associated with this time of year. It sort of really marks the beginning of what you might call witchy season. And this is because it's seen as the veils being really thin, that we can pretty much reach through space and time for whatever purposes we want, especially on the night of equinox. So if you are going to be embarking on that, just remember to always be going for the highest good of all in your endeavors, because what goes around comes around. It can be a really fun time to play with your own magic, to think about manifesting, as well as maybe performing some rituals to help you let go of some stuff. So, for example, maybe there's a friend that you fell out with. It doesn't even have to be this year, it could have been at some other point in your life. You could take this night to create a sacred space, write them a letter, or write them a spell, or use the Ho'oponopono, and use the energy to release whatever it is. Maybe it's hanging over your head. You want to forgive them, or you want to ask for forgiveness. You can use this night for that, bringing more peace into your soul, into your energy, into your heart. Additionally, you can perform, there's so many rituals out there. I'm going to talk a bit later about rituals, but inventing your own is the most powerful, potent way of using magic. But yeah, this equinox night is really full of magic. If you can get outside and be in nature, feel how different it is. And let me know and tag me if you're doing stuff. Tag me on social media at Shamanic Heartspace, because I just love to know what people are doing. So, it's there's a very strong spirit to this season. And we can think of it as the triple goddess. We're moving from maiden energy into crone energy. We're on the cusp of that. So there's so much wisdom that's about to come through and will come through before we come back to life. Sorry, I meant to say the mother into crone, before coming back into the maiden season. Most civilizations, cultures have celebrated this time of the year, or the harvest time of the year. They do something that is connected with gratitude and abundance. I think it's a really important part of who we are, to connect in with the natural rhythms and cycles of our home environment as much as possible, and any excuse for a party too. As most of you know, I work a lot with the energy of the moon. It helps me to keep things moving in my life. It reminds me to let go of things in my life that are not serving me. Not that that's always easy. It's part of being a conscious human being. I like to observe all the Sabbats, even though it's not really a thing out here in Peru. It's my personal practice that I do, and I try and involve my Patreons with that as much as possible, because I really believe that we are nature, and the connection that we have to our Mother Earth really needs some nurturing. And equinox is really no different. No different. It's a really beautiful time if you want to invest your magic and your intentions in that. It's really nice to just think about that for a moment, and how much of a great help it is to remember that we are these cycles. We look at the cycles of our lives anyway, even if we were bumbling along being unconscious, we have these cycles happening naturally in our lives. So it's a tremendous help to connect in with that, because then we can be more conscious, can be more in tune with our entire environment, the people around us, with ourselves, with a higher power. And that's how we can become the most conscious of creators, really. We understand those cycles because we are them. There's something in it that feels very primal, because it is. Now, alongside that, I'm going to tell you a bit about some of the symbols associated with this festival, with this time, because you might want to incorporate anything to do with them with your rituals, or some of the things I'm going to talk about a bit later on. And you might just notice some of these things around a bit more at this time, such as the cornucopia, the horn of plenty. We've got any symbols of abundance, but also, apples, vines, leaves, bread, beans, alcohol, wine. Oh yeah, wine. Pomegranates, wheat, sage, nuts, anything that's orange, red, yellow, gold, candles, fabric material of those colors, pine cones, pumpkins, any of the autumn stuff that's around. You can use those to decorate your home, to decorate out in your garden, just outside your house, welcoming in the spirit of abundance that will help to carry you through the winter season. And I think that that's really important. And I think it's really interesting that the symbol of the vine, obviously I work with vines an awful lot, and the symbology there points a lot towards sometimes we need support, and it's something that we can think about now. Are you exhausted? Do you need to have a bit more support in your life going forward? Who can you ask for? So you may have become a super independent, self-reliant person, but no person's an island, right? And the apple is an important symbol at this time as well. Can you cut an apple in half? What formation do the seeds make? The magical little pentagram. So you can use these things to help support your intentions, to keep you conscious of everything that is available to you, especially at this time. So that being said, you can think about home and hearth magic at this time if you want to do some magic protection, for if you feel like you need it, for your home, for your loved ones, for yourself. As the darkness begins to close in, there's loads of ways to do that. I'll talk a bit more about that a bit later. So yeah, after this celebration period, the energy really is that we are supposed to rest after all the growing, all the changing. I think it's a good time just to remind everybody that rest is not a dirty word. It's something I struggle with too, which is probably why I'm banging on about it, to be honest with you. But we need to rest. We don't have to be busy all the time. We need to heal. We need to restore ourselves physically, energetically, mentally. So please, if you can, and I know you can, find ways to nurture yourself, restore your balance. This is, coming to the end of a growing cycle, and boy, this year has happened so fast. What a growing cycle it has been. So once again, time to self-love, to self-nurture, a chance to rest, to reflect. Up on Patreon, I've put out an equinox guided journey to help with this process, connecting in with nature. Just before we move into, once again, that period of growth, we're going to do it all over again. Just like your garden, or just like nature. You are the garden and the gardener, the earth, the air, the water, and the fire. It is all you. And it's going all the time. But some of the time, you've really got to just chill the engine, So a nice way to do that is taking stock of what feels abundant and feel really grateful for that. To reflect on what has come to fruition, the seeds that you did sow. How's that harvest looking? What's grown? And filling your heart with gratitude for that. I'm sure you will have learned an awful lot, even if things didn't work out how you thought or didn't grow in the way that you thought. I'm sure you've grown. I'm sure you've learned. And it might be difficult to feel that gratitude at first. And of course, don't fake it. Feel what is real. But I'm sure once you sink deeply into your heart, you'll be able to find something that you're grateful for. Even if it is that you're breathing, even if it is that you've got water to drink, you've got clothes on your back. And maybe you want more for your life, but that's okay. Clear this space now, letting go of any resentment and negativity, to make space. And to remember as well that tough times do lead to growth. Maybe it's a good time to challenge yourself to write a gratitude list every night or every morning, writing down 3 things that you feel gratitude for, feel grateful for. If you can radiate gratitude, you will attract more abundance. So some questions you might want to ask yourself around this time, some journaling points, could be to ask yourself, do you have what you need? Do you have what you need? And if not, what do you need? And how are you going to provide those for yourself? Is there anything that you need to let go of or want to get rid of? And perhaps considering how that might take place. Would you have to take some action with manifesting? To consider what you've learned in this year, or even since 6 months ago. How do you feel you've grown and you've changed? And also, as we could potentially be stocking up for the winter, do you have a backup plan? Are you self-reliant? Many animals store up for the winter for their hibernation. Have you got everything you need for your hibernation? I think it's a nice time, especially now, to consider, amongst all the abundance that the earth has provided for us, can we support nature more somehow? This could be by way of leaving offerings for the animals, the insects, nature herself, outside, the gods and goddesses. Keeping your bird feeders topped up. Really simple stuff. And beginning to think about what you would like to sit with, to nurture through the winter period, and then begin to create once we move towards the next Astara. So just lightly thinking about that. I'm going to move into talking about some rituals now before we come to a close. So please, 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 if you are posting your rituals, tag me at Shamanic Heartspace on Instagram, Facebook, because I'd love to see and learn what people are up to, and it's a really great way to share with other people who might be new to this, or even, seasoned people like myself, been doing it forever, and I love to learn new practices as well. All right, so moving into rituals. It's great if you can create your own. There aren't really any rules, and they can be as grand or as simple as you like. It could be as simple as just saying a little prayer in your heart, or you can go all out, which I'm going to talk about different ways now. So intentional cooking is always good, especially as there is certainly the idea of an abundance of the harvest right about now, in one way or another. So intentional cooking is always a good idea, but the energy is simply charged to give your magic a bit of a boost. So what this means is picking your ingredients with real thoughtfulness, real care, and just from your heart or from your mind, putting your intention into those ingredients and then into the meal that you are cooking. It can just be as simple as love, but also healing or just gratitude. That's intentional cooking. So you pick your ingredients and put your intentions in with them. And you can do this with family, friends, kids, just being intentional, being conscious. But also being playful and creative with that. You don't really need to be too serious about it. This is a time for enjoying yourself before a long sleep. We can begin thinking about, as I mentioned earlier, kind of stockpiling, like the squirrels, so they don't have to leave the tree too much when they're having their rest in the winter. So if you do have an abundance of food, canning those things or freezing some of those things, It's a great time for cleaning your house, cleaning up your outside space, cleaning up your altar, making some changes. Making some space, like a spring clean, but the other end of the year. Grounding is really important, so meditation and scents that you can use, it can be quite grounding. I might use tobacco to help with that if I was feeling ungrounded. If it's not too cold or wet, actually sitting out on the ground, getting your feet out on the ground, talking out with nature. Really good time for dream work. If you've been meaning to get your lucid dreaming practices off the ground, now's a great time to do it. Keeping a dream journal, practicing your lucid dreaming techniques, really useful right now because the veils are thin, so messages are going to be coming through, reaching out to you, and you might be able to work out some stuff. Or just have a good time. So yeah, releasing rituals. So writing things down, burning them, or offering them, burying them in the earth, offering them to the air or the water. I was just coming to my head, thinking about what is and what isn't contributing to your life. So that's where you might want to have a releasing ritual. You're kind of pruning your life. And then maybe having a little grieving process around some of those things, giving yourself the space and time to grieve, and then coming back stronger. This is a really cool time for divination, using your cards, using your completely gone out of my head. Oh, completely gone out of my head. Scrying is another way to do it. Using the mirror, using bodies of water for scrying, predicting what might want to come next. I cannot remember I've got one here. The little talisman thing on a crystal on a chain, and you ask it questions. Wow, I can't remember what it's called. That's so funny. I guess that's not the one for me right now. Wow, still. As I mentioned, protection spells. So that can be sitting in a sacred space, lighting your candles, using your scents, making a protection sigil. If there's any of these that you want to know more about, please let me know, because I can do some extra episodes just on these, like as individual practices, to be honest with you. Good time for the gratitude list, which I mentioned earlier. Or you could do like gratitude cooking. For example, you and a group of people, or you and yourself, writing down everything you feel grateful for on a pumpkin and then cooking with it, or even composting it, but cooking with it, or any vegetable really, and all of that gratitude is going into that food and it's feeding your body. Amazing. Also, scripting can be ritualized. So that's when there's something that you want to manifest and feeling grateful for it, even if it's not arrived yet, but writing that out as if it's already here. You spent the day with that thing as part of your life. What else? I just keep seeing, making preserves, cooking. I'd love to be doing that, but as I'm down here in the south, we don't have I don't have access to that stuff right now. Anyway, I'd love to see your recipes if you are cooking, please. And then next time I am in the right hemisphere at the right time, I can try them out. If you're a kind of to-do list sort of person, you could write your to-do list out a bit like a gratitude list. So I don't know, let's say you've got to go to the doctors. Maybe you would write something like, had a really positive experience at the doctor today. There's that kind of thinking positive attitude ahead, so that's what you can invite in. What else? Decorating your space. And bringing that stuff in, bringing in leaves and all of those things for your altar, really nice. I'd love to see people's altars this time of year, because I'm not able to create that, so I'm living vicariously. That's why I'm asking you to tag me, really, because I love autumn so much and I miss it because I'm not there. But really importantly, sharing, eating together, cooking together, being together, sharing, loving. And if you're not really into cooking and stuff, maybe just going out to dinner with yourself, with others. And I think it could be really lovely to make a gratitude jar or a spell jar. So just getting an old jam jar and filling it with intentional things, or do a bit of research into what kinds of spices and teas and things will attract more abundance, and just being really grateful, putting that little prayer in there, sealing it up, maybe keeping it under your bed. Oh, it's just popped into my head actually. Wasn't expecting any of this podcast for channeled information to come through, but of course it is. In terms of just looping back to the whole protection thing, if that's something you want to work on, you could make sure that you're wearing like a small piece of something mirrored, or keep it on your person. Keep a mirror under your bed. You can also put mirrors around your property. And the intention with that would be to send any low vibrational energies back to sender, only welcoming in love and abundance, protection and support. Keep your fire lit. Keep your fire lit. With that being said, all that's left for me to say really is thank you. Thank you very much for listening. I hope you found at least some of this episode useful for your own practices. And to wish you an abundant Libra equinox, and going forward with your cycles, with your endeavours, and with all the letting go. There is a guided journey and energy reading on Patreon, along with many other offerings about Mercury retrograde, the moons that are coming and going. So if you'd like to join up for that shamanic membership, we are over there, patreon.com/Shamanic Heartspace. My intention is to provide you with everything you need to navigate your personal journey as you continue to self-actualize at this time. And I'd like to leave you with a quotation from the writer Shauna Nyquist, and she said about autumn: use what you have, use what the world gives you. Use the first day of fall, bright flame before winter's deadness. Harvest, orange, gold, amber, cool nights and the smell of fire. Our tree-lined streets are set ablaze, our kitchens filled with the smells of nostalgia. Apples bubbling into sauce, roasting squash, cinnamon, nutmeg, cider, warmth itself. The leaves, as they spark into wild colour just before they die, are the world's oldest performance art. And everything we see is celebrating one last violently hued hurrah before the black and white silence of winter. So take really good care of yourself out there. If you want to connect in, please do. If you want to come out to the jungle, work with ayahuasca or some other plants, we've got some diets coming up, so just get in touch. But whatever you're up to, just do take care. And whatever you're going through, you've got this. I hope that you enjoy this time, and thank you so much for being here at this time. I'll see you at the Maloca, and you've been listening to Shamanic Heartspace. Take care.